views expressed on this broadcast of Step by Step Towards Emotional Sobriety with Dr. Alan Berger do not necessarily reflect those of Take 12 Radio, KHLT Recovery Broadcasting, or our affiliates. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. And now, here's your host, Dr. Alan Berger, and the Monty'man.
Well, welcome, family. Welcome to another episode of Step by Step Towards Emotional Sobriety. Dr. Alan Berger is with us once again. Dr. Berger, how the heck are you, my friend?
Well, I am fine this evening, Monty. This is a week that we've all been thinking about things we're grateful for, and you and this show are two of the things on my list.
Well, thank you so much, and that sure does go likewise. I brag about you a lot because I've learned so much, and I just am so appreciative of all the work that you do, and the amount that you can. We don't know how much we contribute in other people's lives. We just don't realize it sometimes. We influence people, and we're going to influence people either for good or for bad, but we are going to influence them, right?
That's right.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, so the last time that we broadcast step by step, we talked about the topic was emotional sobriety and the steps, and we launched forth with that. So why don't you take us on a little review, and then we'll pick up this week and continue with this thing.
Well, one of the things that we're talking about is that the 12 and 12 really is just an incredible text in terms of how it extends and broadens and deepens the application of the 12 steps.
Right.
I think, as I mentioned last time, I was up in New England at the New England Professional Group Recovery Conference, and I was one of the speakers up there. And another speaker was Fred Holmquist from Hazleton, from the Lodge, at the Dan Anderson Renewal Center. And Fred said that he really believes that because the steps, the 12 and 12, was written 17 years after the big book, is that Bill really incorporated in that version of in his discussions of the steps, what he was learning about dealing with emotions. Because, that's the big challenge for us, isn't it, Monty?
Yeah.
After we put the plug in the jug, after we're clean, we've gotten past what we call stage one, the getting clean stage one recovery. And now we're into somehow being able to stay clean and live clean. And those two things, that next stage, which is called stage 2 recovery, has to do with really learning how to manage our emotions, to deal with our emotions. Because, when I look back at my history, and I was doing some writing today, and I just realized it's just how poorly I've dealt with my feelings most of my life. And I just never had any idea of what was the best way to handle some of the things I was experiencing and some of the feelings I was having. And in recovery, I started to, learn a lot more about how to deal with these feelings. And I think the steps can be a great guide to help us understand that. So last time we started to talk about emotional sobriety in the 12 and 12, and I quoted some passages from the steps. We went through step 3, and we were working our way still through step 4. So I just want to pick up step 4 and talk a little bit about that and add a few more passages to our discussion. So the first one is this. It says, step 4 is our vigorous and painstaking effort to discover what these liabilities in each of us have been and are. So Bill wasn't just talking about the past. He's saying that our problems are continuing on in our recovery. He goes, we want to find out how and when and where our natural desires have warped us. We wish to look squarely at the unhappiness that this has caused others and ourselves. So here we are in this step 4. Is what we're looking at is what are our emotional liabilities? And one of the things Bill helped us see in the letter that he wrote and was published in the Grapevine in 1958, is that our main emotional liability is our emotional dependence on other people, on circumstances, for our prestige, for our security, and the like. See, that's what Bill helped us realize. Now, what this says, where have our natural desires dwarfed us? There's nothing wrong with enjoying somebody's validation,
Right.
enjoying somebody's feedback, telling you you did a great job, being able to feel good about being successful. But see, we've taken this to the extreme. If we don't get that validation, then we feel like we're nothing.
Right, right.
If a situation doesn't turn out the way that we hoped it would turn out, then we're knocked off balance and we don't know how to regain our balance. So this is where it says, how can we now bring ourselves back into balance? See, we've gotten warped, we've gotten skewed in many directions, and now emotional sobriety is about learning how to face ourselves and face our emotions and to try to get ourselves back into balance.
And this is real timely because talking about this stuff, because we've been kind of launched forth, into the holiday season, and Thanksgiving was leading the charge, and we have the opportunity to really investigate and maybe look at how we respond to other people's response to us, and what.
Well, you're right on, Monty. I mean, isn't this a time of the year where we end up being so hopeful, and we end up, spending a lot of time with family, and it pushes all those buttons, man. All of our psychological buttons get pushed. In fact, the show we're going to do next time is going to be 12 stupid things that can mess up your holidays.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go through, how people set themselves up to really have a terrible time during this.
Yeah.
During this holiday season. So, and look, in the spirit of all of that, and I'm glad you chuckled, is what we're really trying to do is help people see is what goes on. What are some of these rules we have? What are some of the things that this emotional dependency that we have, Bill called it the absolute dependence we have, what has that done to ourselves and to others? And that's what we're unpacking, and we're going to talk more about that in this show.
Excellent.
All right, so here's another piece of step 4. It says nearly every serious emotional problem can be seen as a case of misdirected instinct.
Yeah.
When that happens, our great natural assets, the instincts, have turned into physical and mental liability. So this just reinforces what we said before. You see, we just get so out of balance in this whole thing that it's very hard to maintain any kind of serenity or peace of mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So here's the next piece that I want to read now. Step 4 says this: by discovering what our emotional deformities are, we can move towards their correction. Without a willing and persistent effort to do this, there can be little sobriety or contentment for us. So here's the call to action that we're really being, given in step 4, is we've got to sit down and we've got to face ourselves as we've never faced ourselves before. You see, none of us wanted to get dishonest with ourselves. And look, most people don't, Monty, unless they have this fatal illness and they've accepted the consequences of it. So out of desperation, right, out of our need to survive, we start to do these things. Now, I believe that there's another motivation that takes over, and you and I have talked about that. That's the growth motivation. It's motivation to actualize, our possible self, make that our real self.
Right,
and
right.
So here's that call, looking at our emotional deformities. So I tell people all the time, only the best in you can see the worst in you. So when you're looking at yourself and you're seeing things about, your behavior, your reactions that you don't like, it's the best of you that's looking at that.
Yeah. You know, there's people right now cringing. You know that, right?
No, this is tough. I mean, you know, Eli Lilly wants to be our sponsor so they can pass out Prozac, but
yeah, really.
no, you and I know that pain is the touchstone of spiritual growth. My
Yeah.
sponsor and I were talking about that the other night, is that we understand that when we're in pain, that there's going to be some great growth that's going to take place. And we've got to develop what I like this one fellow, Dr. David Starch, called, we got to develop a meaningful endurance to our pain, which means that we have to understand that if we endure it in the right way, in a therapeutic way, it's going to add so much meaning to our life. And that's what we're hoping some of the listeners are able to do with the shows that we've been presenting for them. But here's another piece of step 4. So it says, for most of us, self-justification was the maker of excuses.
Yeah.
Excuses, of course, for drinking. And for all kinds of crazy and damaging conduct. We had made the invention of alibi a fine art.
Wow.
I know, man. That is such a powerful thing.
Yeah.
See, so what we do is that when we react, we typically blame other people. Well, I reacted this way because of what you did. So we end up playing this tit-for-tat game.
Yeah.
We end up saying that, you know, if you would have done better, we would have done better, which is a total deflection of any person.
Oh, man, is it ever? Yeah.
I mean, you know, we're not owning anything when we're playing that game. And unfortunately, we've done this, especially to those people that we love. You know, it's a sad fact that we treat those people that are closest to us the worst. We don't treat strangers as bad, typically.
You know, I gotta interject here because this is something that comes up this time of year in many families. You know, and I've experienced it. It's something I've experienced with some of my family members in the past. And I will say, to give them credit, things have changed a lot over the years, and things have gotten much better. And my perception of things has changed, which has allowed me to become thick-skinned and tender-hearted instead of being so emotionally dependent on other people's approval.
Right on. Yeah.
But this thing about you know, some even families that claim to be close you'll hear it. You'll hear somebody say, you know what? You treat your friends better than you treat your own sister.
Right, that's right. Yep.
Why do we do that? Why? I mean, is it because we have a security and we think they'll always love us no matter what?
There's a very good reason for it, Monty, and the reason is that, see, as somebody becomes more important to us, it becomes harder to hold on to ourselves. So if our maturity doesn't keep pace with the level or the increasing degree of importance that a person is taking in our life, then we start to become dependent on that person. You see, mature love is based on union with the preservation of integrity.
Right.
But immature love is based on dependency, on emotional dependency. So what happens is that as we become dependent on that person, now we start generating a lot of rules about how they're supposed to behave. And when they don't go along with one of our rules, right, when they follow their own path, right, instead of doing what we want them to, feel justified in making them feel bad about that, so that we try to manipulate them into doing what we want them to do. You see, and that's what, when we mature, we stop regulating other people and we start regulating ourselves. I mean, there's no better way for me to say that.
I get that, but why does brother treat his next door neighbor with more respect than his own mom?
Yeah, right, because he's dependent on his mom.
Because he's dependent on his mom.
Mom pushes his certain buttons, then he's going to be reacting to that. See,
okay.
Because what this emotional dependency does, Lonnie, it really drops us into our lowest self. We drop to the lowest common denominator inside.
Wow, we sure do.
And our behavior is very, is really poor.
So let me ask you this question, Dr. Berger. So you got the son who's treating his mom poorly, worse than his neighbor who he barely knows. And you're saying that his neglecting his mom, treating her poorly, is actually a product of being dependent upon her to act a certain way.
That's right. He wants her to do what he wants her to do, and when she doesn't do it, he goes ahead and feels justified in, reading her the riot act or whatever he does.
Yeah.
You see, another part of what's step 4, so you'll hear it when I read this passage. It says, it never occurred to us that we needed to change ourselves to meet conditions, whatever they were. You see, we kept looking at how or a better way to say it is, we tried to change conditions to make us feel better.
Right.
We never realized that we had to change ourselves to make us feel better.
Right.
When I'm so focused on what they're doing, now I'm focused on what they need to do differently so that I'm okay.
Yeah.
That's where all of our energy goes. In neuro-linguistic programming, they say where you focus is where your energy goes. When you focus your energy on what other people are doing and how they're treating you, and when you make your emotional well-being dependent on their behavior, then you are caught, and you're going to start to play the blame game. Now, this is a great thing. I love this line. It says, this is another passage from step 4. It says, we learned that if we were seriously disturbed, our first need was to quiet that disturbance. Doesn't that sound like regulation?
Yeah, it does.
Right? We need to quiet that disturbance regardless of who or what we thought caused it. So, take that in for a minute. This is what we're talking about. You see, I am responsible for my well-being. I am responsible for my emotions, for how I'm reacting. So instead of looking to other people to change, I've got to see what I need to do to quiet myself, to develop that quiet mind and calm heart. See, that's the goal of emotional sobriety, so that I am able to stay in balance.
Regardless of what the environment is doing, what an institution is doing, what a principal says, or what an individual is doing.
Whenever I am disturbed, there is something wrong with me.
Now, let me ask you. Now, I'm play devil's advocate.
Not a lot of wiggle room in that, is there, Monty?
There is not. There is not.
It's like we don't get any slack on this thing. It doesn't say sometimes when I'm disturbed there's something wrong.
Yeah.
It says whenever I'm disturbed there's something wrong with me. And
there's and some people, and I used to not understand this, but there is, some people say, well, what about when I see, those gut-wrenching commercials about homeless pets? You ever seen those on TV?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Those come on, and I just, my heart breaks.
Right.
Or seeing a homeless child or somebody being abused, or that's not a disturbance we're talking about. That's a matter of your spirit being sensitive to somebody.
That's an emotional reaction and a reaction.
Right, and that's perfectly natural.
I'm talking about when I get upset, when I start to develop a resentment.
Right.
So
that's what we're talking about.
Stepped on my toes or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, that's the kind of disturbance we're talking.
See, but what I used to do, Dr. Berger, is when I would get disturbed, I would say, because I knew that it was natural and good to have an emotional response to somebody else's, unfortunate circumstances, I would switch that around. I'd manipulate that, and I would tell people, well, I'm not really resentful. What I'm just feeling is I have a heart for you.
Yeah, there it is. Oh, we call that spiritual bypass. Use his spirituality to get him.
Right. That's right. It's like, instead of gossiping, how can we pray for so and so? Tell me the details.
There you go. That's a great way. And that's part of that. That's our lowest common denominator, right?
Yep.
And I'm using great stuff like that, to serve my ego, health, and I'm in trouble, man. I'm not in the spirit.
Dr. Berger, we're going to take a break, and we'll come back. We'll continue with the discussion. Folks, check this out. I think you'll get a kick out of this. We'll be right back.
Pardon me, dude. Are you in the rooms?
Bro, I've been going to meetings for years.
Yeah, but are you in the rooms?
Bro, I'm in meetings all the time. Of course I'm in the rooms.
Yeah, but are you registered on In the Rooms?
Bro, you're not making any sense.
Dude, pay attention. I'm talking about intherooms.com. It's only the world's largest online recovery social networking site for recovery folks like you and me, dude, or anyone seeking help from any addiction. You get exclusive free access to daily meditations, speaker tapes, and daily online video AA and NA meetings, dude. There are close to 300,000 members who are willing to share their experience, strength, and hope with you, dude.
With me?
Yeah, with you. Here's what you do.
What's that?
Get on your computer, your smartphone, or your tablet and type in www.intherooms.com. It's for fun and for free, dude. Dude, what are you doing?
Well, I just did what you said. Now, I'm in the rooms.
Dude, bro, we're both in the rooms.
Dude, bro, yeah.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, dude. Hey, bro, I'm hungry. Are you in the pizza?
Dude. Oh, dude.
In the Rooms, the world's largest recovery social networking site with something for everybody. Visit www.intherooms.com and register for free.
Hey guys, this is Richie Supa, and you are listening to Take12Radio.com, recovery talk and positive music.
All right, and we have returned.
That was you, wasn't it, Money?
I'm not telling.
Oh, that was fun, man. The dude part gave it away.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's... we've named one of those characters Cecil. The other one, I think, is Tomar or something like that. I don't know. We're going to be hearing more from Cecil and Kumar or Tomar or whatever. You know, you get somebody that's a little OCD and you get them with a pen and a microphone and you get them creative and you're in trouble.
It's dangerous.
All right, so we've been talking, listeners, about emotional sobriety and the steps, and we've been focusing on step 4. I really, you said that you made a statement. The invention of alibis, it becomes a fine art. Wow.
It's and we do. I mean, we don't take responsibility for what we're doing, and a big part of recovery is learning to take responsibility, and also learning some tools. We can learn to soothe ourselves, to quiet our mind, to calm our heart. Through some of the future shows, we're going to talk more and more about what are some of the ways people can do that. Well, let me share another tidbit from Step 4.
Yeah.
Another excerpt. It says, to see how erratic emotions victimized us often took a long time. I mean, just take that in. See, Bill was recognizing that this process, this people-growing process, it's not like instant oatmeal. You don't just add water and we're done. It takes a lot of work and cultivation. We're told over and over again that more is going to be revealed. So to see how our emotions, these erratic emotions, victimized us, how our emotional dependency victimized us, often took a long time. First of all, we had to admit that we had many of these defects, even though such disclosures were painful and humiliating.
Dr. Berger, so many people, they for whatever reason, just never get past a couple of exercises in working these steps, and they why is that?
They're really ripping themselves off, Monty. I mean, they are, depriving themselves of the incredible benefits when you seriously approach and honestly take these steps. I mean, the therapeutic value of them, and some show we can even go into that. It's just phenomenal.
It is phenomenal.
Well, here's another one. Listen to this. It says, where other people were concerned, another passage from Step 4, we had to drop the word blame from our language. This required great willingness to begin. Well, it sounds like I'm reading to people from a psychology text. You know, people would be surprised if they just tuned in and heard that. They wouldn't know offhand that that's from the 12 and 12. But see, that's the power of the steps. The steps are harnessing a lot of great psychological principles.
Yeah, they are.
Take responsibility for yourself, getting honest with yourself, looking at yourself, becoming aware of what you're doing. These are all tried and true principles of any effective psychotherapy.
And this thing about dropping the word blame from our vocabulary, that includes even if the other person is at fault, correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, our job is not to blame them. It's to see what we can do to take care of ourselves, to soothe ourselves, to calm ourselves, to not take it personal. I mean, if there's one thing I would tell our listeners to really develop a practice of on a daily basis is if you're upset, try to see the other person and what they're doing as not something they did to you, that it's just what they're doing. Emotion and then makes us take things personal. We really personalize all this stuff, and it's not personal. My mentor, Kempler, used to say all the time, to be more personal, you have to stop taking things personal.
Right, I love that. Yeah, I've used that quote a lot since we've met.
I say that a lot because that was one of the things that Walter said to me that just helped me find a way to hold on to myself and keep my balance.
let me address an issue here that is quite painful for some folks. You know, when you're working with a sponsor or a spiritual advisor or a mentor or whatever, and it's all surrounded around the 12-step model, we hear this statement a lot, you know, okay, what was your part? We need to find your part. Is there ever a situation, and I'll just say what it is. I've had several people say, well, what about sexual abuse? Because my sponsors came to me and says, well, you know, I know you were abused sexually when you were younger. What's your part? I have a hard time with that.
Yeah, well, I do too, and because, you know, obviously kids are victims of these things.
Yeah.
But what we can say is this, Monty, is though some of us have been victims of some of these heinous acts from other people.
Right.
The truth is that we're responsible to try to heal those wounds. And that becomes our part. If we're not stepping up and finding a way to empower ourselves, that becomes our part.
Mm-hmm.
See, if we go ahead and let's say somehow hide behind being a victim and don't take it as how we're being challenged by life, you know, I'll remind our listeners about, you know, Dr. Frankl's work, who was a psychiatrist at Auschwitz, right? And he looked at who survived and who didn't. And it was the men and women that were able to let go of their expectations about what should be happening and instead saw themselves as people that were being challenged by life, and that meaning in their life came from meeting the challenge.
Mm.
So in this situation, how that would be applied if somebody was victimized by sexual molestation is now your challenge is to find a way to deal with that and to handle it, because it's what happened.
Yeah.
And you need to find a way to deal with your feelings, to be able to cope with what went on, and to find a way to get balance back in your life. Now, Tian Dayton has a great book on emotional sobriety, and it's for that situation. It's how emotional sobriety applies to dealing with trauma. And I've even believed recently had Jamie on the show with Dan Griffin, right?
Right, yep.
And Jamie talks a lot. Her book is about how the 12 steps address and deal with trauma. So there's a lot of tools and ways that people can start to work with that. But here's the issue. It's how do we convert being a victim into being a hero, right? See, that's what we're looking for. The transformation from victim to hero or heroine. That's what emotional sobriety is about.
So a person that has been abused like that, they don't have a part in in what was done to them,
So,
but
the
they
wound
can't.
that they suffered, they're victims of that.
Right, but they can have a part in not succeeding to overcome this pain by detaching themselves from what works.
Yep, that's right. By not picking it up, because for whatever reason, they're getting something out of being a victim. And there's people talk about secondary gain, what's the payoff, all these other kinds of things. And there's a lot that one can get from holding on to a problem and not addressing it. You know, it's one way to get people to give them special consideration in a relationship and stuff like that. I've seen many women dealing with that really struggle with their sexuality and with intimacy issues. And I understand that the wound has created that. But once again, the problem is not the problem. The problem is how we're dealing with it.
Yeah.
So that's what we're
so
responsible is. How do I deal with this stuff?
So true. I'm going to tell myself years ago in my middle school, or some call it junior high school days, Dr. Berger, and you and I have talked about how at one time I was so dependent on other people's approval. I told some people that I have leukemia.
Wow.
And when I did it, even when I did it, I thought I was disgusted with myself that I did that. But it was almost like I couldn't not do it. And I told a couple people, well, then it kind of got around and it got back to my folks, and I was in hot water, you know. And I look back now and I'm thinking, what was going on with me? Well, I was not feeling like I was getting, I don't want to use the word attention. I think that's kind of minimized.
You were feeling you weren't getting more. You were feeling like you didn't belong.
I felt like I didn't belong. I wanted somebody to love me, and if that meant I had to create an illness for them to love me, then I would do that. But see, what is so weird, Dr. Berger, is I grew up in a great house. I mean, I had my parents give me all the love and attention, and it wasn't thwarted. I mean, what in the heck was going on? Why did I feel so
they
empty?
gave you all that, but one of the things that our parents didn't give us, because our parents don't know how, is how to deal with our emotions.
Right.
So while they can give you all that love, they can give you all those other things, it doesn't teach you how do I deal with my insecurity. How do I deal with when I don't feel like I belong? How is it even okay for me to talk about that? You see, I mean, there's all of these other issues. So it really, in one sense, it's great that you had that, the love and all those other things.
Yeah.
But what was missing was still missing.
Sure. And and here's the deal. Here's the thing, listeners. I want you to hear me, because I know there's some of you that have written me, I just can't seem to get myself going on doing these steps and getting into it. Let me tell you, I had a relationship with my higher power. I was in ministry. I was doing, and it was even in the middle of that stuff that I was so emotionally dependent on other people's approval to be okay with myself. It wasn't until somebody took my hand and walked me through this process with this 12-step model that I actually, it was almost like one day I said, you know what? I'm not acting like that anymore. What happened? I became a different person. It was such a healing process. I look back at it now, and there was a time I felt very uncomfortable even talking about it. Now I revel in talking about it because I know there's a solution.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, listen to step 7. Here's what step 7 says, right? Step 7 is humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. It says we reluctantly come to grips with those serious character flaws that made problem drinkers of us in the first place.
Yeah.
Flaws which must be dealt with to prevent a retreat into alcoholism once again. So here we are, the importance of facing these things. How did we try to manipulate other people to get what we thought we needed? I did the same thing you did. I tried to act and be somebody I wasn't to get people to love and accept me. And it's really sad when we look back and see that that's what we came up with as our best solution,
Yeah. They be crazy.
Yeah, I know, man. I know. And see, and this is when we start talking about these things and getting honest and looking at these things that we did. see a lot of people let the shame about the fact that they did things like that stop them from talking about it and owning it.
Right.
And here we come back to the real important thing in this program is to understand that when I face these things, I'm not taking away from myself, I'm adding to myself.
That's right.
Adding to my character.
That's right.
I'm developing my character. I'm helping myself develop the best possible attitude. That's what steps 6 and 7 are about, Monty, is developing the best possible attitude towards ourselves, towards life, towards our problems, towards our, those people that we care about. I mean, it's I just love this program. I got to tell you that. I just love it because it's so amazing to me. So we'll leave them with one other thought about Step 8. And Step 8 says it is equally necessary that we extricate from an examination of our personal relations every bit of information about ourselves and our fundamental difficulties. See, our fundamental difficulties is this desire, right, that's got out of whack to be validated, to be loved, to be accepted.
Yeah.
So since defective relations with human beings have nearly always been the immediate causes of our woes, including our alcoholism, no field of investigation could yield more satisfying and valuable rewards than this one. Calm, thoughtful reflection on personal relations can deepen our insight. Well, wow. That's what we're hoping that people are doing by listening to our show and by taking a look at some of these issues that we've been discussing over the last several months.
Well, I tell you,
It's been a journey.
It has been a journey, and it's helped me to communicate some of the things that I wanted to share with people, and I wasn't quite sure how to do it, and this has really helped me to do that, and it's helped me to stand on my own 2 feet, and I'm not going to go into it with the listeners, but we've talked about some things business-wise where realizing some of this stuff has helped me to step up to my own plate and say, no, that's not acceptable, and yes, that is, and we can talk about it, but this is what I'm going to do. and not.
Well, listen, and I can hear the difference. If I gave you some feedback, because you're doing that, you are so much less depressed.
Huh.
You are so much more passionate now. Not that you haven't always been passionate, but there was an edge off of your passion, if you will.
Okay. Yeah.
You're recovering all of that excitement that you've had for this program and for this journey that we are on. And it's because that you're doing a better job of taking care of yourself, Monty.
Well, thank you. Bless your heart, man. It's, folks, you don't want to miss this thing. You really don't. I mean, that life is for the living, not for the dead. Don't walk around dead. Live your life. There's so much. And if you are hurt, if you feel like you're damaged goods, if you feel like there's just no light at the end of the tunnel, that is a lie. There is so much waiting for you out there. And we encourage you to write in. Dr. Berger's email address is abphd@msn.com. Ours is take12radio@comcast.net. They're both here on this page. And some really great news, Dr. Berger. We're going to be on iTunes very soon.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so people can just click subscribe. They don't even need an app on their iPhone or Android or Samsung or whatever. And then whenever a show comes up, they'll get a notification for it, and boom, they can play it right there. They don't have to go to the website or anything. So now we're going to be iTunes freaks. Oh boy.
Well, let me make a few announcements if I can.
Yes, sir.
To build on this, because that's all exciting. My CD called Unpacking Bill's Letter is now posted on iTunes and is available for people to download.
Oh,
so
cool.
They can either get it on iTunes or they can get it on Amazon MP3 format. So if you really like what we're talking about in this show, get a hold of that CD. Those tracks, because it's gonna really reinforce and in some ways even deepen the discussion that Monty and I have had. So that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to mention is next April, first weekend in April, I am going to be at the Dan Anderson Renewal Center in Hazleton doing a weekend on emotional sobriety. And I'd sure love you to come on out and join the weekend. I've done a weekend like this in Missouri, and it was phenomenal. Every participant walked away from that just saying how valuable the weekend was. I will also be doing a retreat in upstate New York at Wappinger Falls at a Catholic retreat center up there called Emotional Recovery 2. And I'm going to be doing this with Juan and Larry Alfonso in New York. Now, if you write to me, I can send you more specific information on any of those things. And then finally, look, my second book, 12 Smart Things to Do When the Booze and Drugs Are Gone, and my new book, The 12 Hidden Rewards of Making Amends, is all about emotional sobriety, so I urge you to get a hold of those.
And by the way, for those of you who are viewing on YouTube, you're looking at my desk right now, and my four favorite books sit on my desk. I've got the dictionary, I've got the good book, I've got the big book, and on the top is 12 Hidden Rewards of Making Amends, right there by Dr. Alan Berger.
Thanks, buddy. And listen, I just put in the mail to you my 3 books for the
cartoon caption contest. Yes,
your contest that's going. How's that contest going?
Well, the contest is now closed, but we're awarding the grand prize, which your books are part of, on December 11th. On Wednesday, December 11th, during the Open Forum show, we're going to be announcing the grand prize winner for that. So we've got a lot of entries. Good luck to everybody on that. We've got some phenomenal material in there. We've got all 3 of Dr. Alan Berger's books. We've got a lot of books. And they're all great. And we've got, CDs from, recovery recording artists. We've got, DVDs. We got the Walking Through the Big Book series, Walking Through the 12 by 12 series with Chris Schroeder. We've got stickers. We've got hats.
Wow, what a package, huh?
Yeah, it's way worth over $300 at this point. So, and so that's just to prepare you for next year, because we're going to start this cartoon caption contest again in January, and we're going to run it all through the year. So by the time we get to the end, the package should be worth a ton of money. So, and what's great about this is there's a variety of stuff in this recovery package. I mean, some of it may not apply to you, but you may know somebody that would really dig it. I mean, you could give it away for Christmas time, because we're going to get that out in the mail to the winner long before Christmas, so they can use that. We're going to do that next year too.
Oh,
so that's cool.
That is. Wow.
So thank you so much for donating those books, and people.
Listen, it's my. And they're signed copies, too. So,
oh, that's awesome.
I put them in the mail just before I left for Nashville the other day, and you should have them hopefully early next week.
And my suggestion to you folks is, if you're going to give away something, that's great, but read Dr. Berger's books before you pass them on. Because you're just going to, they're an easy read. They're really fun. It's just great stuff. And his beautiful mug is on the back of these too. Yeah. So you can see what's...
Let me mention one other person on this show, because this is a week that, our Thanksgiving week and giving gratitude.
Yeah.
And there is a woman in Ohio. In fact, she's a Catholic nun. Mm-hmm. Her name is Sister Mary Horrigan. And Sister Mary Horrigan, one of the things that she does is she goes into the women's prison in her town, and she helps the women that are struggling with addiction try to find the path to recovery. And she really is a believer in the 12 steps, and she just, she's an amazing woman. Well, a number of years ago, she discovered my book, The 12 Stupid Things, and started to do some classes with the women on the 12 Stupid Things. And the women in the jail just took to this book and just felt like they were getting so much out of it. So I usually get about 60 or more thank you cards for these women that work with every year money. And, of course, I donate books to Sister Mary to help her with her mission. And any of you can, if you want her address and you're willing to donate some books to her, let me know, and I'll get you her address. But I just want to take a moment and give thanks for people like Sister Mary Horrigan. who's out there and in the trenches and really reaching out to people and trying to help them find another way.
Yeah.
And there's no financial reward in it for her.
No,
it's a mission of love, of mercy, and I just want to take a moment to acknowledge all those people that give so freely of themselves to those of us that are still suffering.
You bet. Well, thank you for doing that. It's so important that we do acknowledge those people.
God bless them all.
Yeah, God bless
You
them.
too, my friend, because your mission, you don't get a lot of financial rewards from your work either. And I just I want everybody to hear that out there. Monty is not living in a mansion up in Portland, Oregon, out on his 90-foot yacht every weekend, and Monty is struggling to keep this show on the air. So, please be generous with your donations and help support, Take 12 Radio.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, I think I've got a yacht, but I think it's my kid's little toy boat that he still has. All right.
Not on his 90-foot yacht.
Yeah, right. All right. Thank you, Dr. Berger. Stay on the line for a minute. Folks, remember our email address, take12radio@comcast.net. If you haven't been to the website in a while and you've been doing this on your smartphone, we've gone green, everybody. I mean, everybody else has gone green, right? Why not? So we've gone, I don't know how effective we are for the environment, but at least the color is green. And we've got a new look on the website. We're now on YouTube. We're going on iTunes. We're on all the social networking sites now. I don't know what else we can do. Pretty good for a guy with a little OCD, huh? Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty'man along with Dr. Alan Berger, and we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.